Read the book of my life and see I've overcome it. Just because the length of your hair ain't long, and they often criticize you for your skin tone. Wanna hold your head high cause you a pretty woman. Get your runway stride on and keep it going.
All right.
Hi. Sorry to keep you.
That's all right. You ready to go to work?
Oh my God. I'm so ready to go to work.
I was raised to take action. My mother knew that she was raising two black daughters who would be treated differently because of how they looked. Growing up, whenever I got upset about something, my mother would look me in the eye and ask, "So what are you going to do about it?" That's why, when I saw a broken justice system, I became a lawyer to try and fix it. It's why, during the foreclosure crisis, I took on the big banks as California's Attorney General. It's why, as United States Senator, I have fought to represent people like my mother, people who politicians often overlook or don't take seriously. Right now, America needs action. In the middle of a pandemic, the president is trying to rip away health care. While small businesses close, he's given breaks to his wealthy donors. And when the people cried out for support, he tear-gassed them. America is in crisis, and I know Joe Biden will lead us out of it. He's a man of faith, decency, and character. He raised his family that way. I saw it firsthand with my good friend Bo. As Joe says, we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. But together, it's a battle we can win. We just have to take action.
First of all, is the answer yes?
The answer is absolutely yes, Joe, and I am ready to work. I am ready to do this with you, for you. I'm just deeply honored, and I'm very excited.
Thank you for joining this Biden-Harris campaign event, Sister to Sister, Mobilizing in Action with Senator Kamala Harris. And now, please welcome Biden-Harris Campaign Michigan Coalitions Director, Rose Dottie.
Hello, I am Rose Dottie, Michigan Coalitions Director for Biden for America. I want to thank each of you for tuning in for our Sister to Sister Mobilizing and Action Kickoff. We have an exciting program laid out for you today full of dynamic Black women speaking about the importance of voting to our community. First on our program is Melanie Campbell, chair of Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote, who has been fighting for women's rights for over 20 years. Melanie?
Thank you, Rose, for your leadership and introduction. It's my honor to join two of my sheroes, Senator Kamala Harris, Democratic Vice Presidential nominee for the United States of America, and Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence from the great state of Michigan, to launch this inaugural Biden-Harris campaign's Sister to Sister National Black Women's Voter Engagement Program, albeit virtually, with all of my sister leaders from this great state of Michigan here today. Today, the nation celebrates Women's Equality Day to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution that gave women the right to vote, stating, quote, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex." American Her Story teaches us that when women showed up to register to vote after the 19th Amendment was ratified, they faced many barriers. We also know from Black Her Story that Black women faced racism, voter suppression, intimidation, and even threats to our very lives for attempting to exercise their right to vote, especially in the South. For instance, in 1920, when Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, who founded an HBCU, Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona, Florida, happens to be my mom's, Janet Campbell, the late Janet Campbell, and my sister Cynthia Clark's alma mater. attempted to encourage Black women to register to vote, she was targeted by the Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacists who attempted to intimidate her and other Black women. I think it's also important to note that Black men were afforded the right to vote in 1870, 50 years before the 19th Amendment was ratified with the 15th Amendment. However, for Black women and men, it took another 45 years before they would achieve full rights in the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that was sparked by the civil rights movement of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, especially Bloody Sunday, when the late Congressman John Lewis, Amelia Boynton, Jose Williams, and so many others were beaten attempting to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama in March 1965. Today, 55 years after Bloody Sunday, the right for Black suffrage continues because in 2013, the U.S. Supreme Court, Shelby v. Holder, gutted the enforcement powers in the Voting Rights Act. So because of that fact, we know that voting rights is on the ballot on November 3rd, especially for Black people, the disabled, students, and poor folks of all races. We also know that so many of our rights are on the ballots, and indeed, justice is on the ballot. So today, as we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, and on August 28th, we also commemorate the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs, Freedom, and Justice. I want to ask everyone to do as Congressman John Lewis always challenged us to do. Let's get in good trouble by making sure you vote like your lives depend on it, because it really do. Lastly, I believe that Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris are a winning team for the Democratic Party to win back the White House and win down ballot races. We know that they will have our backs when it comes to protecting our voting rights, women's rights, achieve economic health and racial justice, and so much more. I know, I believe they are the leaders our nation needs to save our democracy from peril. So now, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce our next speakers for the hour, Senator Kamala Harris and Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence. Senator Harris, first, on behalf of Black women across the country, we want to thank you for your decades of public service and leadership, and for being a shining light of hope, equality, equity, justice, and opportunity for women and girls, especially Black women and girls. When Vice President Biden announced you would be his running mate for vice president, first, I cried tears of joy with my sisters, Cleola Brown, Star Jones, Mignon Moore, Bishop Leah Daughtry, Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner, Donna Brazile, Karen Finney, Joteka Edie, Siobhan Arlene Bradley, Rhonda Ridley, Janice Mathis, Rosalind Brock, Glenda Carr, Cora Berry, and there's so many sisters' names I have to call. But we also can hear our sister ancestors shouting for joy. The Dr. Dorothy Height, Ella Baker, Rita Sanders, and so many more. Senator Harris, we know you are the first African-American and Indian American woman to represent California in the United States Senate, only the second Black woman to serve in the U.S. Senate. And you were the first Black woman to be elected to serve as Attorney General for the state of California. So on behalf of Black women all across our nation, it is my honor to introduce you today as the first Black woman vice presidential candidate for the United States of America. Next, it is also my pleasure to introduce Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, who is the leader of the 14th District of the great state of Michigan. Congresswoman Lawrence, You represent the essence of what it means to be a public servant of the people, for women, men, all people in the state of Michigan. I want to publicly thank you for your sisterhood and mentorship you have shown me as you lead with distinction as the co-chair of the bipartisan Congressional Caucus for Women's Issues and second vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and as you serve with distinction on several committees, including the House of Representatives, including the House Appropriations, House Oversight and Reform, Subcommittee on Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development, and so much more. And we know you began your career in public service. You served with excellence with the U.S. Postal Service. So we know that your voice in Congress, fighting to save our postal service that is under attack, is one that is rooted in lived experience. So thank you, Senator Harris. I thank you, Congresswoman Lawrence, who both happen to be, one happens to be an Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and one happens to be Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and all a part of Divine Nine. And look it up if you don't know what Divine Nine is, as Congresswoman says, Senator says. But thank you. It's my honor to have joined you all today for this moment in history and more importantly, her story. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Melanie. It's an honor to be here today with a dynamic woman, a woman who I was able to give a toast to before my technology failed me this morning. It's an honor to be here to recognize a woman who are standing on the shoulders of Shirley Chisholm, who told us if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring your folding chair. And to her amazing mother who said, she may be the first in many, which you have, but make sure there's someone, you leave the door open for someone else. Mm-hmm. Today, we are here with so many issues, but celebrating and mobilizing Black women in America because we have so much work to do. I want you to know that when the opportunity to endorse this amazing senator for president, I didn't hesitate. Mm-hmm. And I did a hallelujah dance when Joe Biden saw in her all the amazing things that I see and know and trust her to do for our country. I don't want this moment to pass without us recognizing, unfortunately, the disaster that is happening in Wisconsin on so many levels. My prayers are with those who lost their lives. My heart desire is that we use our ability to protest and to peacefully assemble to make sure that the issues stay on the forefront of America. At this time, I want to give a few questions to our senator. There are many questions we want to ask you, and you'll have plenty time in 4 years to answer them. But first, I want to engage you in this question. Earlier, we mentioned that we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment that didn't include Black women. During your vice presidential nomination acceptance speech, you gave homage to several Black suffragists who paved the way and whose shoulders you stand on. What have you learned from their legacy, and how are you going to use that in your journey to be the first Black woman vice president?
Thank you, Congresswoman Lawrence. Brenda, you have been a sister to me. You have been a friend. You have been a colleague. My many trips to Michigan, you have always shepherded me through. And I just want to, in front of all of our friends and sisters, I just want to publicly thank you for believing in me and supporting me. Melanie Campbell, the chair of Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote, you are an icon. You are, and you have been an incredible mentor to me and sister to me. And I want to thank you as well in front of all of our friends for everything you have done and do and continue to do. So greetings to everybody. I wish that we were all together in person, but this is the next best thing. You know, Brenda, when you talk about the suffragettes, I think there's something really important, and Melanie Campbell talked about it. First of all, we're celebrating 100 years of the 19th Amendment, and that is an important celebration. But we, in that same sentence, have to say black women didn't get the right to vote until 1965. So that really speaks volumes about where we are today based on the history of America and the lack of representation of black women in the halls of power and in the discourse and in the priorities of our country. There's still so much work that we have to do to reach the ideals that we hold dear of equal justice under law and in all ways. When I think about the suffragette movement, I know, and I say this as a proud graduate of an HBCU, Howard University, where, by the way, some of my best friends were from Detroit. But, you know, black women were convening and were part of the leadership of the suffragettes, even when they didn't get the right to vote 100 years ago. Black women were organizing a lot from HBCUs. I've seen photographs of these incredible women, powerful women, who were leading and convening a meeting with then President Woodrow Wilson. And so when we think about this anniversary, this 100 years, let's remember black women have always been in the picture of leadership of our country, often not acknowledged, but always there. And that's why, to your point, in my speech accepting the nomination to be on the vice presidential ticket, to be on the ticket, I felt it very important to speak their names. People like Mary Church Terrell, who was the head of the NAACP, so many others, Mary McLeod Bethune, all of these women who we know, but who the rest of America may be getting to know, but will know through our voices as part of American history, not just black history, but America's history. But we still have a lot of work to do when we look at the fact that, you know, still today in America, black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth than other women. When we look at the fact that black women are some of the fastest growing entrepreneurs in America, but yet you look at Michigan around the PPP and over 700 small businesses, restaurants received the benefit of that money, but only one black business did. So there's still a lot of work to be done.
Thank you for that. You know, it's exciting to me knowing the energy and knowing how important Michigan is, being a swing state. Mm-hmm. But what is significant about you coming to Detroit after this life-changing experience for black women to see you on the ballot? Why Detroit?
I mean, Detroit is part of a big part of America's history, and you know, and the one of the things that put Detroit on the map as a symbol of America and who we are the hundreds of thousands of black folks who helped build Detroit to its point of greatness. But then the other side of that coin is Detroit now, with a black population that I think is 80% of the total, is facing some of the greatest disparities in terms of access to health care, educational opportunities, economic opportunities. And so there's so much to be done. We revel and we will always, you know, bop our heads and sing and dance to Motown. But we also know that there is a lot right now happening in Detroit and areas around Detroit like Flint, where folks are suffering. And that's part of what Joe Biden and I seek to deal with in terms of our priorities to build back better, with an emphasis on knowing which communities are going to need focused support. And Detroit will be and is one of those communities. And also, I just want to also mention what you mentioned, Brenda, about what's going on in Wisconsin as just the most recent tragic example of what we also need to focus on around reform of the criminal justice system and policing in America. Joe Biden and I earlier today spoke with Jacob Blake's family and his mother, his father, his sister. And what happened there is so tragic and still represents the two systems of justice in America. There are still two systems of justice in America, and we need to fight again for that ideal that says all people are supposed to be treated equally, which is still not happening.
Senator, I just want to emphasize that the fact that you came to Detroit first, which has a long history of black women stepping up to the plate, that we are so excited about the leadership and the vision of a Biden-Harris ticket. And I know and I trust that all of the brilliance that life has afforded you. I know that you're going to bring that to make this America a better place. We need you so bad. And so the fact that you chose Detroit is it just energizes us more. And you'll hear more about that. Your mother used to say, you may be the first to do many things, but make sure you're not the last.
Yes,
how do you lift up other women to ensure that they succeed? And how can other women do the same?
Well, I mean, the women who are on this call are living examples of what that is, right? Which is, it's about mentorship. It's about supporting each other and applauding each other. It's about, we all will trip and let's, laugh together at that moment, but then pick each other back up. So many of the young women I mentor, I tell them, because it is part of the experience we've all had, there will be many times in your life when you will be the only one that looks like you, that has had your experience in the room. And what I say to them is, and don't you ever let anybody make you feel alone. Because you must remember, when you walk in that room, we are all in that room with you. And you are carrying our voice with you. And so shoulders back, chin up, because your voice matters, and you will never be alone. You will never be alone. We will always be in that room with you. And I think that's so important, because we are still, sadly, making so many firsts. And yes, my mother said, Kamala, you may be the first, don't be the last. So it is each one pull one, but it's also about supporting each other to know that you're not alone. You're not alone.
I want you to know that as this Delta woman, strong Delta woman, when I was campaigning with you in North Carolina, there were so many Deltas and Deltas on this call. We have your back.
Yeah.
We know that the minute that you were elevated, that attacks came from everywhere. We want you to know we're locking arms as Black women across this country. We have your back. We are the Divine Nine that connects us. And I want you to know that whatever you need, we will be there for you. And I wanted to give you a few minutes to wrap up and give us some comments and words of wisdom.
Well, but to just thank again Melanie for the work that she's been doing in leadership around the election and voting. So I'll just say this. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, so I can tell you that you should believe when the intelligence community has told you that Russia interfered in the election in 2016, and they targeted Black folks with misinformation to turn us off from voting, a form of voter suppression. Melanie talked about Shelby v. Holder in 2013, where the Supreme Court of the United States gutted the Voting Rights Act. And immediately thereafter, at least 24 states put in place laws that were designed to suppress and intimidate and deter Black folks from voting. So much so that a court of appeals said in North Carolina that they did it with surgical precision to prevent Black folks from voting. And so what I will present as a question to all of the leaders on this call is this. Why do you think they don't want us to vote? Why are they trying to stop us from voting, or turn us off from voting, or suppress our vote, or purge our names from the voter rolls? Well, I think we all know the answer, which is why we're on this call together. It's because they know when we vote, things change. When we vote, we have the ability through our voice connected with our vote to say we are present, we matter, we will be seen, we will be heard, and you will be accountable to us. And so, I just want to remind everybody that elections matter. This is probably one of the most important elections in our lifetime. And there is a clear difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And so I urge everybody to come up with a plan to vote, because early voting is going to start. Have a plan to vote, and be sure to vote, and to talk to all of your family members. And then I do want to put a plug in for Gary Peters, who is my colleague in the Senate, and then, of course, Debbie Stabenow, who is wonderful. But elections matter. Elections matter, and this is a group of leaders who will continue to lead, and I thank you for that, because you do it at great sacrifice.
and with a lot on your plate. And so I thank you. I thank you.
So, Senator, we thank you so much for spending this time with us. We want you to have that swagger. We want you to put your hair in a ponytail, put the Vaseline on your face, take off your earrings,
that's right.
we're in the fight of our lives. But we can do this. And if we do this, this country will benefit from it. God bless you, Godspeed. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Rose Dottie, who is an amazing woman in her own right. She gave me the good fortune of serving as my district director in the 14th district, the largest Democratic district in Michigan. And she is now serving in the capacity of outreach for ethnic groups and minority groups in Michigan. I want to turn it over to Rose, who will introduce our next panel.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and thank you. Jadana Dinges from Margot and Max, and Dr. Anna Anderson from University of Michigan. So, the first question will go to Simone. Simone, what can a new administration do to address environmental justice, and why is it important for your work that we mobilize in big numbers